Thank you, everyone, for coming to the 2024 IUSSP Laureate Award ceremony. I have the most pleasant task of chairing this event, overseeing the celebration of individuals who have led extraordinary professional lives that have marked our field. I'm really delighted to have the honor on behalf of IUSSP to give this award to Professor Wolfgang Lutz. Let me take a moment to say a little bit about IUSSP. Some of you may not know about the union, and for you, we warmly invite you to check out our website and become members. IUSSP is the world network of population scientists whose work spans multiple population-related fields. Our scientific work is in large part conducted by panels of members with interest in various topics ranging from sexual and reproductive health and rights to climate change, to inequality, and more. And every 4 years, we conduct our flagship event, the International Population Conference. The next one will be conducted in Brisbane. The call for submission of abstracts is now out, and we invite you all to submit an abstract and attend the conference, which will be held in July 2025. The union also very proudly makes 3 awards. The Early Career Award, that's made every 2 years, and you see here the Early Career awardees for 2023. The Mate Dogan Award for Mid-Career Researchers, which incidentally Wolfgang had also received in the past, and this Laureate Award. The Laureate Award was begun in 1991 to honor the lifetime achievements of exceptional leaders who have expanded our field for their contributions to the advancement of population sciences and their services to the world community of population scientists, and including to the union. The individual is nominated by members from at least 5 countries and is selected by the council through a secret ballot. This award is given every year, and since it was started in 1991, we've never missed a year. So we are really proud that Wolfgang is our 34th laureate. Wolfgang needs no introduction in our field. I know that many of us are awed by his achievements. Very briefly, Wolfgang's academic contributions have been exceptional. His publication record in the most reputed international journals is truly dizzying. He's had a strong involvement with and influence on policy-relevant key international institutions. And he is a great institution builder, not only in Vienna, but also in Asia and Africa. And Wolfgang has contributed hugely to IUSSP. He served as its secretary for 4 years, 1998 to 2001, during which time he brought about much innovation and much change to the union. And he's been a great support to the IUSSP ever since. But much more than me, the panel of speakers know Wolfgang very well, much better, and are now going to speak about his achievements and his recognition for this award. So I don't want to take any more time, and I will stop here and turn the floor to his close colleagues, collaborators, and friends. So our first speaker is Joel Cohen, Rockefeller University and Columbia University. Over to you, Joel.
Thank you very much for the privilege. I am very happy to celebrate Wolfgang Lutz as the IUSSP laureate for 2024. Good morning, Wolfgang. Congratulations. He is without peer as a scholar who demonstrates the importance for sustainable human well-being of education for all. His work brought new insights to the understanding of human capital formation around the world. Wolfgang Lutz innovatively used the methods of multidimensional mathematical demography to estimate and forecast human populations stratified by levels of educational attainment, age, and sex. Wolfgang Lutz used his modeling and data on education and human capital formation to analyze how improvements in education could improve many other aspects of sustainable development. In the course of this work, he served as a lead author in the IPCC assessments of climate change impacts. He was also appointed by the UN Secretary General to the group of independent scientists who produced the quadrennial Global Sustainable Development Report in 2019. Wolfgang was awarded the prestigious Mindel C. Sheps Award of the Population Association of America in 2016. This award is given every other year for outstanding contributions to mathematical demography or demographic methodology. The justification for this award stated his pioneering work on the demography of education as the main reason. Wolfgang was elected to the U.S. National Academy of Sciences in 2016, just one of the 6 national academies to which he has been elected. In his opening plenary lecture to the General Assembly of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences in 2018, he highlighted the importance of female education for sustainable development. On the cover of his 1,072-page Oxford University Press book, World Population and Human Capital in the 21st Century, published in 2014, I wrote, quote, "This monumental pioneering volume proselytizes for a new trinity of fundamentals of demography: age, sex, and education. If this book succeeds in its mission, as I hope it will, the future will look different, not only for the science of demography, but also for all people's lives." Congratulations, Wolfgang. I rejoice to celebrate this happy occasion with you.
Thank you so much, Joel.
Thank you, Joel. Our next speaker is Raya Muttarak from the University of Bologna.
Congratulations, Wolfgang, and thanks, Shireen, for giving me the opportunity to talk about Wolfgang's contribution to scientific advancement. And I want to reflect also on his ways of doing things, of his scientific leadership. And to put it simple, I would like to say what I like about Wolfgang and what I like about working with Wolfgang. So my first point is about his forward-thinking vision. So Wolfgang has a high capacity to think ahead for time and anticipate future challenges and opportunities. So this is reflected very well in his work on population, environment, or climate change. So 25 years ago, when we were still debating whether human activities is a major cause of global warming or not, already back then, Wolfgang has established the Population Environment Research Networks back in 2001, which is the scientific partner of the IUSSP. And the network has remained very active until today. And I also had an honor to serve as a chair of the network back in 2019 and 2020. And back then, when we think about population and the environment, we tend to think of how human population affects the climate system through consumption and associated carbon emission. So this is what most of the earlier demographic work was about. But Wolfgang, as I said, that he has a talent in thinking ahead of time already since 15 years ago when I started working with him. We already started thinking about how the environmental change or climate change affect human population. And his main contribution here is to outline the key role. So we want to put on the table how demography can play a key role in providing understanding of differential vulnerability to climate change. And indeed, he has put forward a groundbreaking ERC, which is the prestigious research grant from the European Commission for Excellent Research, Excellent Science. So his project was called Forecasting Future Societies' Adaptive Capacity, or Future SOC. And the idea is to use existing demographic tools, particularly the multidimensional population projections, to understand the future societies. And this brings me to my second point about how persistent Wolfgang is. So the persistency, believing in the idea, particularly the idea which is groundbreaking. So idea of this project that I was mentioning, the Future SOC, is that human capital or education can help to reduce vulnerability and enhance adaptive capacity, because people who have education, they tend to have better cognitive skills, better risk perception, have the problem-solving capacities, and also we know that education is associated with better job, higher income, wider social networks that can be useful for climate change adaptation. So Wolfgang's idea is that if a society invests in education, then the future society would be equipped with people who have high adaptive capacity to external shocks such as extreme climate events. But back in the time, there was no solid evidence on this topic at all. And I had an invaluable opportunity to cultivate on this idea of Wolfgang, and now we are able to demonstrate empirically in many case studies that we did that at the individual and the societal level, highly educated communities or persons are able to cope better with climate change. It took us about 10 years actually to put this idea on the table. And then now I can see that colleagues at international organizations like the World Bank, the UNICEF also started really building in this role of education in their work on climate change adaptation. And this brought me to the third point that I want to say about Wolfgang work, which is always highly relevant, have the policy relevance, but building upon solid and sound scientific evidence. And this already reflected in his earlier work back in 1990s when he, together with Sergei Sherbov, has developed the PEDA model. So looking at the interconnectedness between different systems of population, development, environment, and agriculture. So aiming to quantify the interactions between water, land use, population, food, and agricultural system using the case study of African countries. So the innovativeness of the model is trying to capture the feedback mechanisms of food supply and distribution, such as how population growth may affect agricultural production. But at the same time, if we have abundance or low food supply, it will itself also affect population dynamics. So this line of work is really useful for policymakers because it helps them to understand the interconnectedness between the systems and also to think of alternative outcomes in terms of different alternative policy scenarios. So along this line of work, so in the early 2010s, Wolfgang was also actively involved in developing the so-called shared socioeconomic pathway, or the SSP, which is the 5 narratives of future development trajectories, which have implication on mitigation and adaptation challenges. And this narrative can be quantified and projected, and in particular, Wolfgang, together with demographer colleagues also at IIASA, also in Vienna, have translated these narratives into 5 population scenarios, which are currently widely used in the climate change community, including in the IPCC report. And I'm going to close now because I like to express my appreciation for the perfect balance that Wolfgang has achieved in fostering a new generation of demographers. I think this point I really want to highlight because I feel that Wolfgang always provides us with the space to invest in new and sometimes risky ideas, even they may fail. But at the same time, he also offers valuable advice when needed. I'm going to wrap up now that I feel fortunate to have had the opportunity to work under his leadership. And I want to be like Wolfgang in this sense. So giving opportunities also to the new generation of demographers now. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so much,
Raya.
Raya.
And our third speaker is Tomas Sobotka from the Wittgenstein Centre for Demography and Global Human Capital. Go ahead, Tomas.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see also my screen and
Yes.
my presentation. I have an honor to congratulate Wolfgang, and what I will try to do in my 6 minutes of time is to cover in high speed Wolfgang's extraordinary achievements in creating a unique demographic ecosystem in Vienna, in really making Vienna a global demography research hub. It all started 4 decades ago when Wolfgang started working at the IIASA, International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis, as a young researcher. And his career started really quickly. Very soon, he became deputy program leader to Nathan Kifitz, who was then leading the World Population Program. And in 1992, when he was just 35, Wolfgang became a director of the World Population Program there. So for many researchers, that would already be the peak of their careers. But of course, we all know Wolfgang. This is not enough achievements for him. And then about every decade, something big happened in Vienna around demographic research. So in the year 2002, Wolfgang was appointed to lead the Vienna Institute of Demography. And it was around the 25th anniversary of the VID. And at that time, after selling, I think, the mobile phone licenses, Austrian government increased the funding to the Austrian Academy of Sciences. And Wolfgang was appointed to lead a major expansion of the Vienna Institute. And he gave it completely new direction. He not only expanded it in terms of personnel and research themes, focusing it very much on European research, but also made it an English language scientific institution, which was, of course, as usual, very visionary, because you cannot do a global research with German today. And he also started a lot of activities and things at the VID, which are still very much alive today, such as starting the new journal, Vienna Yearbook of Population Research, which we are very happy to keep publishing until now, and I hope we are doing fine. He started the European Demographic Data Sheet and many other things which we are still doing today. Now, again, about 1 decade passes and Wolfgang got the Wittgenstein Award, the highest scientific award you can get in Austria, sometimes labeled as Austrian Nobel Prize. And he used the money to connect 3 different institutions which dealt with demographic research and later also with demographic education or teaching, and which he happened to head each of them at the time, the IIASA World Population Program, the VID, and at the time the Business University in Vienna, where he was leading a small department where he was a professor on human capital and development. And then when the department at the Business University didn't grow big enough, in between receiving ERC grants, Wolfgang managed another major feat. Around 2019, he started a new department of demography at the University of Vienna, which became then the 3rd pillar of this Wittgenstein Centre, which you can see here, and which now is really like a major center of demography, providing also master education and having PhD researchers, so having PhD program. And so in this sense, Wolfgang has really huge, fantastic achievements about the demographic, about creating Vienna as a demographic hub. And this picture here is one of the pictures from the time when the Wittgenstein Centre was affiliated with the University of Business. We were in the new campus. And I think many of you can see yourself on the picture. This is from 2016 Wittgenstein Centre conference, which was honoring also Wolfgang's contribution at the time. Wolfgang was very active in all kinds of communication and media outreach. I really loved all these pictures where Wolfgang is surrounded by global maps or a globe, which you can still find online in the media. But looking a little bit farther, you can see Wolfgang very prominently, especially in Austrian media landscape, with very frequent contributions, interviews in main daily newspaper, their Standard, and in others, being often on TV in discussions, but also in one of the pictures here, I think that's the first featuring of a film on population boom. So all kinds of activities. And going farther, Wolfgang's advisory role, policy advice, he's scientific advisor to Dubravka Šuica, the EU Commissioner for Democracy and Demography. You can see Wolfgang over the decades advising governments on population policies, family planning, and so on and so forth. Here he's in the Austrian Parliament in the picture on the bottom. And Wolfgang is always thinking big. This is one of the caricatures which was published with one of his interviews in Austrian newspaper, Der Standard. And he is really big and broad focus, and ideas make him, of course, also a very successful researcher scientifically. So to wrap it up, and not only to show old pictures of new pictures of Wolfgang, this is an older picture. So if you want to puzzle a little bit, you can puzzle about where Wolfgang is in this picture, where is it taken, and when. And with that, I would like just to wrap up Wolfgang's unique scientific contribution and also contribution to institution building by emphasizing things which other speakers are also mentioning. He combines many different features which make him so successful. It's scientific
Tomas, you need to wrap up.
With very high level of curiosity and openness to new ideas, connecting different concepts and ideas. But he's also very ambitious, and he's an achiever. So he's not easily put off by some obstacles which he faces when he has new ideas and visions. He has very high organizational skills. He has always bold visions where he wants to be, what he wants to achieve. He builds upon his social capital, being connected with many people and institutions, and he also has a right amount of luck, being at the right time in the right place. Thank you very much, Wolfgang, and congratulations.
Thank you very
so
much.
Tomas, by the way, this was a
Tomas.
seminar in the East-West Center in Honolulu just before my 30th birthday. So this was my first encounter with the IUSSP because I had the IUSSP Junior Demographer Travel Grant.
Great. So our next speaker is Alicia Adsera from Princeton University. Go ahead, Alicia.
Well, thank you, Shireen. I'm delighted to be here also and have the opportunity in this celebration to participate of Wolfgang's career. This is a very well-deserved award, and as my colleagues have already mentioned, Wolfgang's contributions extend in multiple dimensions. So these dimensions include being an academic demographer in multiple contributions. I'm going to mention a couple of them in a moment. And also an important thing is thinking about the future of demography. And I think an important thing is thinking about the training. And the training, unfortunately, in many areas is lacking. So bringing this new Department of Demography in Vienna, bringing the possibility of having graduate studies in population is an essential part of thinking about the future of demography. And also an important thing is that Wolfgang is really a very clear institutional builder. And here I put a few of the logos, but when I was thinking about all the span of the contributions that he has made in institutional building, they are very, very big. So just starting with IIASA, the VID, bringing together several institutions in the Wittgenstein Centre, and then also in the role of policy making, which he cares a lot. So thinking about sustainable goals in, for example, the United Nations. So what are the important things that I want to highlight in terms of his academic contributions? I think the most important thing is putting human capital at the center. And, coming as an economic demography, I appreciate a lot that. So I think education and health are fundamental. Why they are relevant? So Wolfgang has shown us the importance in population projections, showing these multidimensional models. I have to say that the first memory I have from Wolfgang was in one of maybe my first PAA or maybe my second PAA, and that was around 20-something years ago. It's scary to think how many years have elapsed, but I saw Wolfgang present all these colorful graphs, and I was very impressed and first trying to figure out what these graphs meant and how the population's projections meant. And over the years, I started to really appreciate more and more the role of human capital in all the fundamental workings of many of the population projections. So other important things in there are the productivity, the role of productivity for human capital, how human capital affects not only first, but also the realization of the second demographic dividend. I think that's something important that Wolfgang has put at the center of the discussion. He has also contributed very importantly in thinking about endogenous behavior in terms of fertility, how human capital affects people's decisions when they're thinking about fertility. And I would say that a very important contribution is thinking about the sustainability goals and sustainability of the planet. So when we are thinking about climate change, and I think Raya put it very nicely, how the population change and how all these interactions between innovation, creativity, decreasing fertility is going to affect the possibility of overcoming some of the obstacles we have in climate change. So when I think about why education affects sustainability, I think about all these scenarios that Wolfgang has produced in many of his work. So we are all familiar with this. I use this in my classes at Princeton in demography. The students love that. They really, it's a good way to really put together everything, to put together this feedback increase in education in terms of what it means for fertility behavior, what it means for subsequently population growth. But not only that, I mean, the implication expands beyond that. It expands, for example, in thinking about disabilities, health, when we're thinking about aging populations, which is going to be the cost and sustainability of these populations. It tells us something about the cognitive and adaptive skills that people have because of education. And more importantly, it tells us something about productivity. And that in class, for example, opens up the debate about the need of replacement rate, at what point, what is the sustainable population, and what is really the fertility rate that we are into, what are the implications in terms of policy making. So all these things are open up when students look at these graphs. And I think these are an excellent tool for discussion and for people to think about the role of population in the future. I want to pause for a moment as an economic demographer and as a very interdisciplinary person who sometimes has to explain on where you fall in. I think that's one important thing of Wolfgang. He has really understood that social sciences and interdisciplinary vision are important to think about some of the population behavior in the world. And one example is this low fertility trap, which I think is a very visionary and interesting theory. It includes three components, and I want to highlight those. It has a demographic, a sociological, and an economic part of the story. So thinking about demographic, it incorporates a fundamental concept in demography, the population growth momentum, thinking about fewer potential mothers in the future affecting fewer births, but then links very nicely with sociological background, thinking about how the ideal family size for younger cohorts declines once they observe actual fertility behavior of previous cohorts. So some of this feedback effect, he thinks very much in terms of population in nature, in adaptability. So I think this sociological component is important. As an economist myself, I value very much his view of bringing also some of these part of the stories in terms of income. So thinking about Easterlin's theories, he brings together this relative income hypothesis, thinking about how fertility is affected both by aspirations and by expected income. So I think this is an example of his ingenuity, his ability to put things together, and that is something very unique in Wolfgang. As all the other contributors have said, he has this thinking bold, thinking big, trying to put all things together, which I think is something that is needed today. We cannot really be only compartmentalized, we really need to think all together. So I just want to close by congratulating Wolfgang, by really very deeply thanking him for his work. I think it's very important to have people like Wolfgang try to really making sure that the world understands that population is key. It's key for multiple dimensions. And we see that, we see that in climate change, we see that in violence, we see that low fertility is everywhere in the news. And I look forward for his continued contributions. I'm sure even if he says he's retired, he will never retire. He will die hard as a demography talent at the end. Okay, congratulations, Wolfgang.
Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia. Our next speaker is Nyovani Madise from the African Institute for Development Policy, AFIDEP. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. And Wolfgang, I want to start by giving you a very big congratulations for becoming the laureate for 2024. And we have heard so much about you already. The bad part of being like number 5th in the line is most of the things you wanted to say have already been said. But I wanted to say, well, every time I think about Wolfgang, I think about education, as a lot of people have said. I also think about advanced modeling. I also think about rigor. And those are things that I think personify your career. You have been very rigorous, your modeling and all that. You pay attention to detail. When I met you in person in 2004, I had read about some of the work that you had done, of course, but to see you in person was actually very, very good. It changed the way I do things. So I needed you to know that, because your emphasis on rigor, your emphasis on education, and I do remember in 2004 at APHRC, you saying, as an institute that is doing population work, you also have to look at education. The education distribution will be what will tell us how the fertility transition will pan out in Africa. And today, when I look at the fertility trends in Africa, when I compare the difference between the less educated and the women with higher education, I know that what you said was true, because we have in some countries, almost close to replacement level fertility amongst the educated women, while we're still grappling with quite high fertility levels amongst the less educated. And this emphasis on education actually is pertinent for ICPD program of action, where the emphasis was not just about demographic targets, but look at the socio and economic development, look at empowerment of women, look at the education of women as a way of actually addressing population issues and bringing in development at the same time. A little bit of humor. In 2019, I had the challenge, I'll call it, of moderating a discussion between you and John Wilmot about how the projections are done, because you were very particular that the UN needs to change the way they do the population projections. So Professor Yagabao and I, we were supposed to comment on the discussions, and it was like two young people amongst two giants, each arguing their part. But I think the emphasis for me that you gave there was indeed to not just have one way of doing models, but to think in a multidimensional aspect, but also to make sure that indeed the modeling and all that, we were able to provide capacity development in the institutions and the statistical offices where they're doing modeling and projections so that they can do them properly. I do also want to acknowledge your passion for capacity building in Africa for training future demographers. And we did go together at the request of Hewlett Foundation to visit some African countries to see where they should actually invest in. And I do remember vividly, I think it was University of Ghana, where I think the department, the Regional Institute for Population Studies, was almost dead. There was a director there who was just waiting for this thing to be shut. But luckily with the leadership of Francis Dodo, the Hewlett decided to fund, and now the institute is still alive, still thriving, training a number of African demographers. We also visited Cape Town and Wit, again, very much alive. So I just wanted to thank you for those things, and also to thank you for your role on the board of APHRC. When I worked there, you were on the board, and what was clear was the passion for demography and the passion for growing or generating the next leaders on the continent. When we wrote a report to Hewlett about our findings, I do remember that I wanted to write everything about all the trees in the forest and all that. And you very correctly highlighted the issues that were most important, and I learned a lot from you in working with you, and you actually highlighting which are the things that are important to go into the report that then led to Hewlett providing the funding. I also wanted to thank you for your role in the SDG report, the 2019, because there is demography in there, and it was clear that your impact was there. I didn't succeed as well in the 2023 report. I argued a lot for demography. There is a smaller section on demography there, but I was always mindful of the fact that we can't write this report without mentioning population. And at the back of my mind was always what Wolfgang would have wanted to say in this report. And finally, I just want to thank you for your kindness in nominating me for the World Academy of Sciences Prize, which, because of your very generous statements about me, I was awarded that last year, and I wanted to thank you and to just say congratulations. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Nyovani. And now we move to Leiwen Jiang from the Asian Demographic Research Institute. Go ahead, Leiwen.
Thank you, Shireen. Hi, Wolfgang. Celebrating your IUSSP Laureate Award is an honor and a privilege. In my opinion, the IUSSP Laureate for Wolfgang is overdue. My testimony is largely based on my own experience. Before I first met him in 1998 as a PhD student, Dr. Zheng Yi at Peking University repeatedly told us that we young scholars should take Wolfgang Lutz as a role model, not only because of his remarkable achievement in population studies, but also because of his extraordinary contribution to IUSSP and the communities for academic research and policy analysis. At a young age, he became the Secretary General of IUSSP. He took the baton from Andre Rogers and Nancy Kifitz to lead the World Population Program at IIASA. He further developed the multidimensional demography, pioneered into probabilistic population forecasting, and established expert opinion approach in developing projection scenarios. He led IIASA Global Population and Human Capital Projection as an iconic product of IIASA and for the global population research and policy analysis communities. He has always been at the forefront and pushed the boundary of multidisciplinary population research. Among many of his pioneering works, the Population Development Environment Research Framework and its associated model programs have guided and enabled many scholars to work on these research topics, including myself. I was fortunate to closely work with him as a member of IUSSP panel on climate change and as a lead author contributing to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Fifth Assessment Report. In the latest year, I have also observed Wolfgang's role in expanding the territory of demography in multidisciplinary research on global development goals, especially on human well-being, in his capacity as a member of the group of independent scientists of the UN Secretary General and as the IIASA Executive Director General. After he initiated the Asian Meta Center for Population and Sustainable Development Analysis in 1999, many Asian scholars, including myself, benefited a lot from the numerous activities, such as research method training workshops, proposal writing programs, and various seminars and meetings. More importantly, he supported me to establish the Asian Demographic Research Institute at Shanghai University in 2015, chairing its International Scientific Advisory Board. He recommended a number of IIASA scholars to become ADRI's faculty members. ADRI became the Asian Meta Center's new headquarters in 2016. Under his guidance and unwavering support, ADRI hosted a series of academic events, including Asian Population Forum, the 4th Asian Population Association Conference, numerous training workshops and summer schools, and several joint research projects on subnational population projections among Asian countries, migration, and social ecological consequences under the Belt Road Initiative. We established the ADRI International Postgraduate Program on Asian Population and Sustainable Development Analysis, provides formal demography training for Chinese and international students. Wolfgang closely worked with the ADRI staff and co-authored several high-impact papers, including papers on the effects of achieving sustainable development goals on global population changes, and how investment in education can help alleviate negative influences of low fertility and aging on economic growth in China. Without exaggeration, Wolfgang has been our guide to achieving ADRI's goals. In addition to his countless creative insights, Wolfgang has always been an imaginative thinker. Every minute we spend with him, we can always benefit from his extensive knowledge of scientific literature with accuracy and his unbounded array of new ideas. Dear Wolfgang, we are here today to celebrate your IUSSP Laureate Award in recognizing your enormous scientific achievement, your outstanding role in promoting human well-being, and your brilliant personality that deeply influences people around you. We thank you. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leiwen. And our last speaker is Jalal Abbasi-Shavazi from the Vienna Institute of Demography and the University of Tehran. Jalal, go ahead.
Hello, colleagues and Wolfgang, and thank you, Shireen, and other speakers. My task is now much easier because everyone has expressed his view on Wolfgang's excellent contributions. It is also a great honor for me to say a few words on Wolfgang's exceptional contributions. We are honoring a colleague not only for his personal achievements, but also for the great contributions he has made to demography. Based on my knowledge of Wolfgang's work, I can describe him in 5 distinctive areas. First, Wolfgang's view of demography is global, multidisciplinary, and multidimensional. Second, he thinks of demography as a discipline that can and should contribute to the well-being of people. Third, to achieve this goal, he believes in capacity and institution building. Fourth, to ensure sustainability of demography, he has successfully combined training, research, and policy. And fifth, Wolfgang's communication style is clear and simple, While he sees demography in a multidimensional and complex way, his ability to present ideas clearly is really impressive. His 2021 textbook on advanced introduction to demography is a clear illustration of advances in demographic theory, modeling, and its application. Now, let me briefly elaborate on some of Wolfgang's contributions. As our colleagues expressed, global demography is one of the keywords of Lutz's training, research, management, and publications. He has not only globalized Austrian demography, but he has also tried to advance and upgrade regional demography to the global level. Leiwen has already mentioned about Wolfgang's effort in establishing the Asian population megacenters and supporting demographic training in Asia. I appreciate Wolfgang's support for finding the Secretariat of the Asian Population Association. I initiated an online forum for the establishment of the APA and wrote an email to around 70 Asian demographers and Asian experts on 31st of August and asked their opinion about various issues on the formation of the association. One of the main concerns was in which country we should register the association and which institute would be the best place for hosting the Secretariat of the APA. 4 days later, on 4th of September, I received an email from Wolfgang and said that I just came from Asia and talked to Professor Bason Limonanda from Population Studies Center at Chulalongkorn University, and she agreed to host the APA Secretariat. This was really vital and instrumental, and we were able to register the APA Secretariat at Chulalongkorn University, which was moved to Mahidol University later. We organized our first meeting at the 2009 IUSSP conference in Marrakesh, where many demographers attended, and here you see Wolfgang attended and extended his support for the APA at the meeting, and these are the colleagues who participated at that meeting. That was a great event for the APA. And as you know, APA is now an established organization, institution, and is organizing its 6th biennial conference in Kathmandu this year. To foster regional collaborations, Wolfgang has been hosting various meetings in some of the Asian and African countries. In November 2011, Lutz and Samir Casey organized an expert group meeting on fertility of high fertility countries, future of high fertility countries in Nepal, where many demographers were invited to discuss the prospects of high fertility trends for future population projections. On a personal note, I have had the privilege of collaborating with Wolfgang on a few projects, in particular, a joint paper by Wolfgang, Jesus, and myself on demography, education, and democracy, global trends, and the case of Iran was published in PDR in 2010. Our results show that there is a correlation between women's education and democracy. It is an important result as more education leads to democratic aspirations and behaviors. However, realization of democracy depends upon the context within which democratic ideas and behaviors are shaped. Wolfgang is now serving as an advisor to the Vice President of the European Commission for Democracy and Demography, and I'm sure he will make advancement in political demography as well. Finally, let me refer to these long-term association and contributions to the IUSSP. Wolfgang became a member of the IUSSP in 1983 when he was graduated from Pennsylvania. 15 years later, he was elected as the IUSSP Secretary General for the period 1998-2001. And as Secretary General, he was involved in the move of the headquarters from Ligue to Paris, together with securing long-term support from the French government. He was also heavily involved in organizing the 2001 IPC in Salvador Bahia. And Lutz was also influential in establishing the IUSSP website and launching IUSSP cyber committees such as PERN, which functions successfully up to this day. Lutz's remarkable career and contribution to science has been recognized in prestigious awards, including the 2009 IUSSP Mehdi Dogan Award and the 2023 Science Award from the Austrian Academy of Sciences. With this impressive track record and valuable contributions, I'm sure you agree with me that the IUSSP Council has made a great and right decision in selecting Professor Wolfgang Lutz as the 2024 IUSSP laureate. Let me finish my words by congratulating Wolfgang for his great achievements and thanking him for his remarkable contributions to demography. Thank you, Wolfgang, and thank you all for participating in this event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jalal. Well, now is the moment we're all waiting for. We've heard these wonderful testimonials about Wolfgang's achievements. Now I have great pleasure in turning over to this great man himself to give us his thoughts. Wolfgang?
Thank you so much, Shireen, and thank you so much to all of you. This was really quite something, and I'm speechless, but still I should give a speech. So I think you've heard so much about the different institutions I've worked for, but one thing you probably don't know is how I became a demographer. So I will tell you a little about the background. There is a saying that nobody is a demographer from birth, which means that most people went through another discipline until they then came to demography. Well, I'm also not a demographer from birth, but as close as you come to this, because I remember very well at the age of 15 in 1972, I was then in a classical language school translating Plato from ancient Greek into German, and then I came across a copy of the Limits to Growth study by the Club of Rome. You all know this study that for the first time used computer modeling to show that we are heading for trouble with our global development. And this I remember well on the evening where I just threw away Plato. What are these old philosophers helping us? We need to enter the age of computer modeling to really address the pressing issues for humanity. And I think that was the time when I decided to go for these sort of macro level, global, long-term challenges to humanity. Well, at the beginning, I wasn't sure which part. There was the energy problem, there was the food security problem, and then, of course, the demography figured very prominently in this Club of Rome study. So then when I went to university, I first went to Munich, where I really studied it with special permission of the rector on 3 different faculties. I did mathematics, I did philosophy, and I was also interested in Catholic theology. Well, then I soon met my wife, who was studying Lutheran theology, and we already married at the age of 21, which at the time student couples were not so unusual as they are today. So we are soon celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary. And but I was sort of torn between these studies. Well, I soon figured out that being married to a future Lutheran minister, I would have no career as a priest in the Catholic Church. So what was left was philosophy and mathematics. And yeah, so I asked what to do. And so one evening, a wise old professor gave me the advice saying that, well, find a small discipline that is really sort of interesting, where you feel at home, and become good in that discipline. And then when you're old, you can still become a philosopher on that basis. Well, I chose demography, as you know, and now I'm 67 and I will retire from all administrative functions this summer. So maybe now this is the time to become a philosopher. I then, of course, was very fortunate to get to the US. I knew that I really had to get to some of the best places where you can learn demography. This was the University of Pennsylvania. So I was so fortunate to have Sam Preston getting his methods, because during 1 year there, I learned more than in 4 years of statistics studies at the University of Vienna. Etienne van der Waal helped me with historical data. I did, since my wife is from Finland, my first job was at the Statistics Office of Finland, which had the world's longest annual time series in demography. So the title of my dissertation was Finnish Fertility since 1722. And then I was also fortunate that it was the last year where Richard Easterlin was teaching the economic demography course at the University of Pennsylvania. So I was very well equipped when I then went back to Austria and had the opportunity to enter IIASA where Nathan Kifitz was the leader of the World Population Program. Well, many other things that happened after that have already been described. So I use my remaining minutes to possibly just summarize 3 issues that I think that demography should take more serious, or the world of demographers should give more attention than is currently the case. The first is that demography is by its origin as well as by its name, demos, the population, really focused on the macro level, the aggregate level of populations. Of course, in order to understand the drivers of these trends, we also have to focus on the micro foundations of demographic trends. So by all means, we have to do micro-level studies. We have to take a life cycle approach. But we shouldn't stop there. I think we should always try to bring it back. What are the implications of the sum of these micro-level life choices on the aggregate level of population changes? That's what policymakers expect from us. That is what the global sustainable research community expect from us in terms of aggregate changing demographic size and structures. This brings me to my second point. As I said, the classic definition of demography is studying the changing demographic size and structures, but structures in the plural. It is not just the age structure. The multidimensional demographic approach looks at multiple structures. And this is also all the classic textbooks. If you go to Schreier and Siegel, he very much describes what are demographic variables. Well, these are age and sex, of course, place of residence, highest educational attainment, labor force participation, all these things that are usually collected in censuses. And if you have a survey, there's always a demographic section. And these are the characteristics of the people that are being registered. Why then is almost everybody only looking at time series of changing age structures and using this relatively narrow and in many respects misleading change in the old age dependency ratio? Well, it's partly because long-term data, long-term projections and reconstructions only exist for age and sex. That's what the United Nations, what is the most national statistical offices produce. But now we do have the data, we do have the means to also look at changes in the educational attainment compositions, cross-classified by age and sex, as well as labor force participation and place of residence. So these all make the discipline of demography and our models and our forecasts much more relevant to the rest of the world, to the rest of the scientific community, than just looking at the changing age structures. And it was already pointed out by Raya that this IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they really now chose to use these multidimensional scenarios for their forecast, for their analysis of both the mitigation, so the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and forecasting the possible vulnerabilities and impact on climate change. Okay, and the last point that brings me still closer to sort of my philosophy hat, and is that in demography, we need to give more attention to theories. And in this recent advanced introduction to demography, I speak about 3 demographic theories with predictive power. There are actually not so many theories in the social sciences that indeed have predictive power. Also, some people like Karl Popper say that only something that has predictive power deserves to be called a theory. So there I talk about the demographic metabolism. That is a notion introduced by Norman Ryder of Princeton, really as the societies change through intergenerational replacement, through cohort replacement. And this is really sort of a basic paradigm of how to view demographic change. And it also gives us the analytical tools, if this is brought together with multidimensional quantitative population mathematics, to really forecast not just the size and age structure, but also the changing composition with respect to all kinds of other stable characteristics. Education is one such stable characteristic that's acquired at young age. And then, if you know how many high school graduates there are at the age of 20, we know how many women at the age of 80, 60 years later will have a high school graduation, which has all kinds of health consequences and other important impacts. So that's the demographic metabolism that really also helps us to anticipate soft characteristics of people. Like we've applied this, for instance, to the degree of European identity that young Europeans tend to be more European-minded, have more European identity than the older ones who are stronger on their national identities. And if we establish this as a cohort effect, we can then indeed forecast that the future will have a majority of people in Europe with a European identity. So there's tremendous forecasting potential in this method. The second is the demographic transition that you all are familiar with, and where the theory, the predictive power is indeed most in the irreversibility. Once we've gone through this process, we're not going to go back to pre-modern conditions. And the third that I picked out here is the demographic dividend in a broader sense. There's some discussion whether it's more an age dividend or an education dividend or whatever, but essentially it says that if the proportions, the parts of the population that are more productive by their age, by their skills or whatever, and labor force participation are relatively larger, this enhances economic growth, or more generally increases in well-being at the societal and the individual level. Well, this is just an attempt to summarize three highlights as I see the world of demography, and particularly what demographers can contribute to the rest of the world. And I want to conclude with this adhortation, if you want, of demographers to be a little more open. There are so many fields from the environmental change community, but also the poverty research community, the democracy and political science community, where demography can contribute a lot more than is currently done. So thank you all for your attention, and I wish us all, and I wish the discipline of demography a bright future, and I'm sure it will have such a future. Thank you so much for your attention.
Wow. Thank you so much, Wolfgang. In a few minutes, you've summarized so much, and there's so much for us to absorb. I hope we'll be able to record and publish what you have just said. If we didn't know earlier why Wolfgang is so worthy of this award, we surely do now. Putting the multidimensional demography on the world stage is no small task. Insisting that women's education are a lead of human well-being is no small task, and we must be very grateful in this field to all your accomplishments. So let's move to the next and most delightful item on the agenda. We are here to recognize and celebrate the remarkable contributions that Professor Wolfgang Lutz has made to our field. And it gives me huge pleasure to award to you today, Wolfgang, on behalf of the IUSSP, the most prestigious international award made in population sciences, the IUSSP Laureate Award 2024. I do hope a time will come when we can congratulate you personally before or at the IPC 2025 in Brisbane next year. So my warmest congratulations. Now I'd like to turn the floor over to Tomas Sobotka, who has been pivotal in organizing today's event, to open the floor to those in the audience who have expressed that they would like to say something. Over to you, Tomas.
Thank you very much, Shireen, and thank you to all the participants who have joined us, who have joined the session online. And when we were selecting the speakers to say something about Wolfgang in the main session, of course, this was a very unfair process because we had to be very, very selective. And I know many more colleagues would like to say at least a few words. So we will have now this final session, which will be very short, just 15 minutes, where we give floor to a few more people. I would say also, especially some people from the Vienna area who were also instrumental in supporting Wolfgang's nomination, but also a couple of other colleagues. But there are important rules of play there. We know about many of them, but still I will like to ask all the participants who are ready to say a few words to raise their virtual hands. They will be upgraded as panelists to the session, and then one by one we give them a floor, but they get only 1 minute. That's a brutal rule, because otherwise, if you speak too long, you are restricting the possibility of the others to say a few words. So everyone, please, just who wants to say something, we will try to give 1 minute to everyone and start with raising your virtual hand, and Paul will let you in to become one of the panelists. I hope it will work out fine. And if possible, we start with Richard Gisser. Thank you.
Hello, Wolfgang. I am glad to join this celebration session as a long-standing collaborator of yours. We were together in about 40 years ago in the Demographic Institute of the Austrian Academy of Sciences in different functions, you as a research associate. Then we were together in the new or transformed VID, when I had the privilege to support you with the transformation. And I was very happy that you found it from our old group of applied demography, the new demography of Austria. Your idea was we should give something back to the taxpayer, because the research is funded by public means. And you have also contributed very much to demography of Austria. I made a count of your more than 300 publications. There are about more than 40 about Austria, partly as a single or as a co-author. And one of the most remembered contributions is Vienna, a city beyond aging, revisited and revised, which took up a topic that you already covered at the end of the 1980s. And the revision was to project a TFR of 1.4. Now we have a TFR of 1.2 about in Austria, and Vienna also. Vienna is now waiting for a new revision. Just to mention that Vienna has had the position of a world capital of ultra low fertility with a TFR of 0.6 in the 1930s, in the Great Depression. Mentioning Vienna, I was...
Could you wrap up your 1 minute, please? It's already more than 2 minutes.
So,
okay, thank you, Richard. We'll have to do a new paper on this together. Yes, very much so.
Alicia, if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. I think so. All my best and big congratulations to Wolfgang for this laureate. And let me just summarize Wolfgang. He's an exceptional scientist and demographer. He's a wonderful mentor to many of us during the last years. He's a great teacher and still being a teacher for many of us. And let me really add, most importantly, he's a wonderful friend to many of us for years. I'm fortunate to have really had the honor and the opportunity to join the travel of Wolfgang during the last decades. And without Wolfgang, Austria would not be visible on the demographic landscape. It was really Wolfgang who brought demography back into Austria. There was some initial kind of demography in Austria, but it was really Wolfgang who brought Austria on the international landscape. And I think one of the biggest success, I'm always saying, of Austria and the many institutions Wolfgang is affiliated with, is that we managed to keep Wolfgang in Austria. And so this is a big thanks also to all the Austrian institutions. And I would really like to highlight, I think, with the Wittgenstein Centre of Demography and Global Human Capital, Wolfgang established a roof for 3 institutes which are closely collaborating, have collaborated in the past, and will collaborate in the future. This is a wonderful success story for Austria in demography worldwide. Let me now end up and really say, finally, I would like to thank Wolfgang for giving me this opportunity to join as a deputy director at the VIT, to join as one of the directors in the Wittgenstein Centre, and to learn so much about demography. And I'm bringing it into economics during the last years. I'm extremely inspired by Wolfgang during the last years, and most of all, it was an enjoyable collaboration, and it will be an enjoyable collaboration in the future. Congratulations and many thanks to Wolfgang.
Thank you so much, Alicia.
I see Sergey lined up.
Yes. Yes. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Wolfgang, congratulations. I'm extremely happy that you became a 34th IUSSP laureate. Actually, I guess you are the youngest one now, at least in this distinguished club of the laureates. Well, we know each other for 40 years, actually, and we worked on so many topics together, whether it was multi-state demography, population projections, probabilistic projections, aging, population environment, education, everything. And it was always a great fun working with you and a great pleasure. Now, you truly deserve this honor. And I'm delighted that you received this recognition while you are still in a very productive age. And we may expect still a lot of brilliant contributions, especially since you are still in your upper middle age, if we are talking in prospective sense. By now, you have collected all awards one can think of in demography. Actually, you won a grand slam in demography. So, and you did even more. You brought the most valuable award back to Europe after, I think, 10 years period of absence of this award in Europe. So congratulations, Wolfgang, and I hope there will be still many years of brilliance and perhaps few more awards yet to be established in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Louis.
Yeah. Hello, Wolfgang. I would also like to congratulate you for this prestigious award and very well-deserved honor, of course. And it has been mentioned already and described by all the previous speakers that you influenced and changed the discipline demography worldwide. But as your successor as director of the Vienna Institute of Demography, I would also like to express my deepest thanks for the way you developed the institute during the 21 years that you have been director of this institute to make it an international key player in demography, as Tomas has mentioned already. The VIT was an essential place, I would say, where many of your groundbreaking works have been produced, and the whole staff, including myself and all the many guests and researchers that you have brought to Vienna, have profited really significantly from being part of your mission. And I would like to thank you very much for this experience that you have given to me and all of us. And I can promise you that your achievements will not be forgotten even after your retirement, and even if you become philosopher now, they will not be forgotten. They will serve as compass for our future research based on all your works and achievements. So thanks again. Let me conclude by congratulating you again, and I hope to see you soon in Vienna in person, that I can congratulate you also with a handshake. So all the best, and yeah, congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Ayushma, KC.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. So Wolfgang, we have known each other for 19 years, but today I speak to you as one of your young students. I feel so lucky to be able to call you not only my professor and supervisor, but also my mentor. As you said, nobody is born a demographer. I'm also not, but I can say that you have been one of the reasons for me to enter the field of demography. As a teacher, like Jalal mentioned, and I know my peers would agree with me, you have a great talent in explaining even the most complex and dense concepts in an interesting and easy way to understand. And as a supervisor, you're able to push and motivate us while still empowering us and giving us so much space to remain independent in what we do. And I'm also always very grateful, but completely baffled at how, in the middle of thinking big and traveling the world and finding solutions for the world's problems, you have always managed to find time for your students and to continue to guide us. For those who don't know, I also work at IIASA, and walking through the halls there are a lot of older pictures of legends in their respective fields hung in the corridors. And it always makes you feel like, wow, what an amazing feeling this must have been to work in the same place as these people. You're really in awe of their legacy. And what I would say about you, Wolfgang, is that you are someone that makes me feel that way whenever I walk past your office. So here's to you. Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Bill Butts.
Hi there. Can you see me?
Not yet. I hear you, but not see you.
Okay, well, I'll proceed on. Wolfgang, welcome to this ceremony. I am delighted that this is happening, and greetings to my colleagues. I want to extol Wolfgang very briefly in terms of two things that happened during the years that I was fortunate enough to work with you. One of them was when I joined PRB, the Population Reference Bureau, in 2004. I wanted to upgrade the scientific composition of the board of directors. And so I quickly asked Wolfgang to join. He agreed. And for the 6 years that I was CEO, Wolfgang was on the board. Not always an unchallenging presence, but always a supportive one. And I particularly remember episodes when we came under criticism, in fact, I would say attack at PRB, for occasionally writing articles and publicizing data on the low fertility countries, the increasing number of countries that were experiencing total fertility rates below replacement level. We were criticized by this principally by people who thought by doing this, we were weakening the case for family planning, weakening the case for policies that would further reduce fertility. Wolfgang and the board of directors said, hold your ground, make sure you got the data and the analysis correct, and then report it as it is. And I appreciate that very much. 6 years later, Wolfgang turned the tables, asked me to join him in establishing the Wittgenstein Centre in Vienna. I'd been there about 4 or 5 weeks when we had a speaker, somebody else, an economist. And he spoke, and I commented afterwards to Wolfgang. I said, that was an excellent paper, an excellent analysis. That afternoon, Wolfgang appeared in my office, sat down, and said, Bill, you said that was an excellent presentation. What was excellent about it? And I learned from that not to be offhand with my scientific judgments. And I also learned from that what would emerge a couple of times since, that Wolfgang tended to be a bit skeptical toward economists doing demography on the grounds that they did not disaggregate their data and therefore missed important things. So Wolfgang, just 2 instances out of when we worked together. I congratulate you. You are an extraordinary scholar, an extraordinary leader, and a friend.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Is Eduardo Rios Neto. Eduardo, can you say a few words?
Yes, Wolfgang, it's a pleasure to congratulate you on this award. And just a few words. First, it was a pleasure to get involved with you in the organization of Salvador, such a dynamo, José Alberto there as the president-to-be of IUSSP. And after that, probably you don't remember, you were tired, so you went to Belo and I hosted you. You went to Ouro Preto. Now I'm a visiting professor at Ouro Preto since I retired from CEDEPLA. And I told you about demography of education that I was trying to start here in Brazil as a field. And everyone thought that this was a crazy idea. You were very receptive. And it all goes to your final remarks in the award. So it's a pleasure. You are a dynamo, a global demographer, maybe the most global demographer I ever met. And even in Latin America, we saw your presence in Asia, but there is your presence in Africa and also in Latin America. So I see no other deserving person for this award as you, and I congratulate you.
Thank you so much. I think Thomas now.
Maybe can we try Tom Legrand again? Tomas, can you connect now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we
perfect.
can hear you.
How it works.
I don't know if you'll be able to see me. I wanted to emphasize something that I don't think other people have sufficiently emphasized. All of us in any academic field know of prima donnas, people who are very narrowly focused on things that interest them and aren't really giving to the community. And I want to emphasize that is not Wolfgang whatsoever. Beyond his enormous qualities and achievements over his life that people have emphasized here, I think it's important to note that his achievements, I think, emerged from profound human values. His very strong interest and focus is on critical issues that are concerning the world today, facing the world today, and his huge desire to work to improve human welfare and the future of humanity in his research and otherwise. In terms of investing in institutions, they're always institutional empire builders. Wolfgang has succeeded hugely in building institutions, but a lot of his work is not so evident, making institutions function, really working hard to make things work. I've seen his work with the IUSSP, and I know how much he's done there. And finally, I just want to mention that beyond being very strongly concerned with people as a global whole, his macro approach, I'm also very aware of all that he has done on a micro level. A couple of people have spoken about how much he's done in helping junior demographers develop themselves into first-class demographers and population scientists. But I'm also aware of his help with people who have other sorts of problems, that are facing political issues in their own countries, who are facing other sorts of problems, and that he has always shown a real care in the welfare of people as individuals as well as a collective whole. Thank you very much, Wolfgang. It's always been a pleasure to work with you.
We are running 10 minutes past the scheduled end of the session, but still I see two speakers with raised hands, so I will give them the 1 minute opportunity. The first is Nandita Saikia.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas, for giving me this opportunity. Already a lot has been said about him as a researcher and academician. I would want to speak few sentences about him as a mentor. So as a mentor, he is extremely approachable and highly supportive. And I would say he's very, very easygoing. And he creates comfortable environment to open up, to speak new ideas, however wild. And I found him that despite having very hectic schedule, he remained relaxed, and he's also a great, quick decision maker. I saw him, he has great interpersonal communication with his team members at IIASA. Every morning he comes and he knocks almost everyone's door and wishes good morning. And the lunchtime, he again takes all of them to take lunch together. And I find that these qualities are great to be a leader. And he also inspires and encourages his students or fellow researchers whenever it is needed. Whenever I interact with my student, I try to imbibe some of these qualities. This is really inspiring. And dear Wolfgang, thank you so much for all of your support during our stay in IIASA for 2 years. I express my sincere gratitude, and I wish you the best. Congratulations once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nandita.
And the last speaker, Emmanuel Chouakale, will say a few words.
Thank you, but I'm not. Did you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm not smart in English, but I will speak in French. It's okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Mr. Wolfgang, thank you. Merci beaucoup. Quand j'ai commencé ma formation en thèse au Cameroun, en venant de la RDC, sur la question du dividende démographique en Afrique, parmi mes premières lectures, c'était votre article que vous avez écrit en liaison de l'éducation en liaison avec le dividende démographique. C'est vraiment un honneur et une grâce, enfin, de parler à une grande personnalité comme vous qui nous inspire du jour au jour. En tout cas, merci encore.
Thank you so much. The IUSSP has always been bilingual, and it's good to maintain it.
So thank you very much to everyone in the session. I don't know whether Shireen wants to close the session to conclude it now.
Yes, please. Wolfgang, this has been a really memorable, I don't know where the time has gone. It's been such a pleasure to celebrate your achievements. Your achievements will inspire us, I think, globally, the whole network of population scientists in what we do in the future. So sadly, this ends our ceremony. Thanks, Paul, for keeping us going in organizing this. And to everyone, do keep checking the IUSSP website for a most exciting range of activities and webinars coming up this year, and of course, the conference next year. Look forward to meeting many of you there, and Wolfgang, I really look forward to congratulating you in person. So
Thank
bye,
you so
everyone.
much, Shireen. Thank you, everybody, so much. Bye-bye.